So I was watching a video from fellow content creator The Tabernacle about women who broke up with their boyfriends because they voted for Donald Trump. And I would highly recommend that you watch that video when you're finished watching this one, because I think that his thoughts on the topic were spot on. And I'll link to that down below. Also, great person to subscribe to. He has really good commentary and interesting topics. So check him out. Tell him I sent you. But he sourced those stories from Reddit posts. And it got me thinking, how many more of these stories are out there? What would happen if I just typed in "because I voted for Trump" in the Reddit search bar? And I've got to say, the results, fascinating. I found countless examples of breakups, the end of friendships, parents cutting off their children, and even someone hating themselves after voting for Donald Trump. So, I mean, it's clear that this election tore families apart and ruined relationships, which is genuinely sad. But the one about the person hating themselves, that one is actually a little bit more complicated than it seems. But with that being said, I want to dive into some of these posts because I think that it's important that we reflect on the way that Donald Trump is tearing this fucking country apart. But the first one was also featured in the Tabernacle's video, but I do want to read it here for you because I do have my own thoughts about this that I want to share. So in the breakup subreddit, the user Personal Links writes, "I can't even begin to explain how messed up this is. My Kamala-loving ex-girlfriend just dumped me because I support Trump. Yeah, you heard that right. She literally dumped me over politics, over the fact that I believe in fighting for this country instead of surrendering to the disaster Kamala and the left would bring. It wasn't even a debate. It was an ultimatum. She couldn't handle the fact that I don't want to live in the nightmare world she's so desperate to create with her Kamala worship. So what does she do? Celebrates today like she won some big victory, like her and her woke agenda are somehow going to change the world for the better. It's pathetic. She's selfish and blind to the reality of what she's doing. I didn't just lose a girlfriend. I lost someone who didn't care enough about me or what I believe to even try to understand, all because I stand with Trump, all because I believe in something more than the left's lies and destruction. And now she's out there throwing a party with people who probably think the same as her, celebrating the collapse of everything I stand for. I don't even know what's worse, losing someone I thought I could trust or seeing her act like a traitor to everything this country needs. She didn't just break up with me, she broke up with everything that matters." Okay, first of all, my initial thought was that this person has the emotional maturity of a child, but it turns out they are just a young adult. And they post in subreddits geared towards older teenagers. So this is probably somebody who's like 18, 19. So it's a very young man who clearly has a lot of growing up to do. Although when we are talking about Trump supporters, I wouldn't be surprised, if this was somebody who was 50 years old, because again, all of them kind of have the mental maturity of children. It just kind of depends on who you're talking to and how deep within the cult they are. But when I looked at his post history, the first three things that I found were posts from him that were removed. One of them was in a thread about a guy driving over LGBTQ plus protesters. I wonder what a Trump supporter would have to say about that. Apparently nothing good, as evidenced by the fact that his post was deleted for some reason. Don't know why, but you can tell based on just those 4 paragraphs what kind of a Trump supporter this is. Many of us know people like this, who are very confrontational and passive-aggressive and refuse to stop talking about politics even when it's out of place or inappropriate. And the reason why I'm making that assumption is because if he wasn't that kind of a Trump supporter, that kind of a person, he would have just said, well, my girlfriend broke up with me because of who I voted for, and I feel so hurt by this. I feel hurt that she would end our relationship because of my politics. But he didn't say that. He brought up the woke agenda and how Kamala is going to destroy the country, in a fairly apolitical subreddit. These are telltale signs of brain rot, and it seems like his girlfriend made the right choice because he couldn't not talk about his politics. He seemed insufferable just based on that little thing, and the commenters seemed to agree in the replies. This person says, "You voted against her rights and essentially told her you don't view her as a person. Trump's rhetoric has been nothing but hateful, so you got what you deserved." Another person says, "Sounds like she dodged a bullet." And this person replied with a more thoughtful response explaining why his girlfriend felt the way she did, writing, "In a normal election, deferring political views wouldn't affect a relationship, as we have seen in past elections. This one, however, determines whether we keep rights we have left, which are already diminished by the overturning of Roe v. Wade, or we continue down a fast, calculated, and devastating path toward the complete and total control over women and what they are allowed to do. Can't even talk to someone who supports Trump, let alone date them. Not only do they have no respect for us, but they care more about their taxes, and I don't even need to mention the fact that Trump is a felon and an assaulter. Anyways, tell your girlfriend I love her and I hope she's doing okay. Let me know if she needs me." Ouch. And that's what these people don't understand. Trump isn't just a standard Republican. He was found liable for rape in civil court. If you can't understand why your girlfriend would take issue with you voting to make a rapist the most powerful man on the planet, that's not just a mere difference of politics. It speaks to your character as a human being. So I don't blame her one bit. I couldn't be in a relationship with somebody who voted for Donald Trump. I don't even think I could be friends with somebody who voted for Donald Trump. I have family members who I've tolerated that were Trump supporters, but after the election, I've decided I just don't need these people in my life, right? It's not just the cruel policies that they support, it's the contradictions. I have multiple family members who know people that would be directly affected by mass deportation, and I can't look past that cruelty that they're inflicting on people that they know. Let alone the fact that my marriage is on the line, right? It's on the chopping block, and they're basically telling me, fuck you, by voting for Donald Trump. And it's sad that this is tearing relationships apart, but these people who voted for Trump are revealing something to the rest of us that's deeply unsettling. And on that note, it's of course ruining friendships as well. In the Trump subreddit, user Prestigious Will writes, just lost a quote friend because I voted for Trump. It's ridiculous how uneducated people are and immediately divide themselves just because someone is not voting for Kamala. And I've got to say, it's pretty ironic that this person is calling people who didn't vote for Trump uneducated, but it just speaks to their lack of self-awareness. But another user replied saying, I had someone block me because they made a super dramatic post and I replied with everything is going to be fine. What was so bad from 2016 to 2020. And that right there is the fucking problem. The willful ignorance to the destruction that Trump caused. First and foremost, he appointed 3 far-right Supreme Court justices that ultimately voted to overturn a constitutional right that women have had in this country for 5 decades. Second of all, 200,000 Americans unnecessarily died at the start of the pandemic because Trump refused to take it seriously and wouldn't even recommend wearing masks. After that, he incited an insurrection and tried to overthrow the U.S. government. These aren't small things. These are massive things. But I could keep going. I could talk about the complicity with Saudi Arabia's genocide in Yemen and his indiscriminate drone strikes in Pakistan, Yemen, Somalia, or his deregulation of agriculture that caused an E. coli outbreak, or his anti-union appointees to the National Labor Relations Board, or his withdrawal from the Iran deal, which makes war with them more likely. There's so many things I could point to, but I mean, if you're living in a bubble or you don't feel the pain that he caused, I guess it's easy to live in ignorant bliss and say, oh, well, it wasn't that bad, right? Well, it was. You just weren't affected or didn't know it was happening. But I want to move on to the next post where an entitled child asks for advice after a mother threatens to cut them off if they voted for Donald Trump. So in the family subreddit, user EG's Forever writes, my mother to me will not speak to you for the rest of your life if you vote for Trump. She has also told my sister that she will disown her if she votes for Trump. What the hell has this world come to? We both will not be bullied by her. She has repeatedly threatened us/me with this. Should we say goodbye now before the election? She is completely a changed person, very angry, nasty, hateful, judgmental, condescending, critical, angry, and has been for the last 3.5 years. I cannot take it anymore. Every phone conversation, she has to add some kind of comment or dig. She goes nowhere except to Walgreens and grocery store. She will not make any effort to see family or friends that live in the same city and refuses to come visit me out of state. She has been invited to many things, birthdays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, but refuses to go. All she watches on TV is MSNBC, CNN, The View. No one wants to be around her. Then she bitches that she's not invited to certain things because they don't want to hear her spew, gets pissed off. She is 80 and I guarantee she will not change. What would you say to this? Is this the way the world is now? Background, my dad passed away a long time ago. I do not engage in her extreme politics and therefore never have told her who I am voting for. She assumes because I do not engage. We do not engage. We just walk away. I've had to hang up on her multiple times. This is how bad it's gotten. A family friend passed away recently. She tells me it shouldn't have been him, our friend. It should have been Trump. That's deranged. I never once in this post within all the comments stated that I was voting for Trump. So stop. Jesus, this is what I'm talking about. You're assuming since I do not want to engage in the hate Trump shit. Now, I've got to say, I think that this person told us a little bit too much here because they claim that they never told their mom that they support Trump, and they say that their mom just assumed as much since they don't talk about politics or hate Trump openly like she does. But if I was able to ascertain that you're a Trump supporter with just over 300 words, I'd go out on a limb and assume that your mom probably has a lot more to go off of than I do. But how do I know that you're a Trump supporter? Well, because you told me. You called her politics extreme when all she does is watch CNN, MSNBC, and The View all day. I'm sorry, that is only extreme if you're coming from the perspective where you're on the far right and support Donald Trump. To anyone else, CNN is as milquetoast as it gets. Now, I will grant you that it is possible that your mom is an insufferable liberal. I've known hyper-aggressive liberals who shit on me for being a socialist and for voting for Bernie Sanders and whatnot. So it's entirely possible that this person's mom is part of the problem, sure. But it really feels like this person is leaving out some key details here. I feel like if I had a parent who's 80, who had politics that I disagreed with, I mean, if I wanted to maintain that relationship, I would simply just not tell them about my politics. But here's the thing. I bet this person did tell them about their politics in some way. Maybe they shared a right-wing post on Facebook, or they dropped a comment mid-conversation that signaled their support for Donald Trump. I don't know. But if you didn't want your mom to know, you probably shouldn't have said the things that led her to believe that you support Donald Trump. Now, I'm making a lot of assumptions here, but if you dig into the replies, they basically confirm my suspicion here. So this commenter replied saying, "My father has become hateful in this way too. He has Trump derangement syndrome. Look it up. And rants constantly. I have to tell myself much of the time that it's not his fault. He doesn't understand how to navigate outside of the information silos, and he's trusted CNN and MSNBC his entire life. Legacy media is predatory with the boomer generation. It's a 24/7 reel of anger and vapid talking points." That's pretty ironic. I mean, no mention of Fox News at all in the brainwashing of boomers? Nothing? Really? Anyways, the OP responded to that saying, "Thank you. Yes, Trump derangement syndrome. It's getting worse and worse every day. These people are so hateful. I never have said who I'm voting for. The verdict is still out on that one." Sure it is. Now, I want to move on because this next one is a doozy, because this person voted for Donald Trump themselves, but they deeply regret it. Now, when I read the other posts about the Trump voters losing friends and family, I enjoy the schadenfreude to a degree, even though it's genuinely sad. But when it comes to this person, let me just say, I actually do feel bad for this Trump voter. So in the advice subreddit, this user writes, "I voted for the wrong person and I hate myself for it," and says, "I voted for Trump. I didn't want to. My family asked to use the same booth, and if I said I wanted a separate one, I knew they would question it. They don't know I'm liberal. They think I'm conservative like them. I've been afraid to tell them, so kept it hidden. I feel so guilty, not only for other people, but because of my friends and lying to them that I voted for Kamala. There's one friend I'm scared of telling the truth to. She said she trusted me in my vote and telling the truth. I really, really hate myself. I feel like I should be punished. I feel like I should tell her the truth, but I'm so genuinely scared. I really, really like her and don't want her to think less of me. I know I was a coward and stupid for not coming up with an excuse to use a separate booth. Please, what should I do? I just want any advice. Should I tell my friend the truth? Can I punish myself somehow for this? Holy shit. I thought that I should just try to do better next time, but I feel like I should have known better than this to begin with. I'm so stupid." Okay, calm down, liberal. Holy shit. Just take a deep breath. It's all going to be okay. All right. Now that that's out of the way, once again, I get the sense that this is somebody who is really young, and it was probably easy for their family to peer pressure them and get them to do something that they clearly didn't feel comfortable doing. And that's not their fault. You know, if this is a younger person that still lives at home with their parents and isn't financially independent, it can feel really scary to stand up to conservative family members. As a young man, I did this, and the repercussions were severe. Now, this poster later revealed in the replies that she's a woman who's worried about her reproductive rights, so I do get the sense that maybe we're talking about a more fundamentalist evangelical household who would maybe shame her for voting for a baby killer or some shit, but I don't know because we don't have a bunch of details to go off of. One thing that did strike me, though, I will say, is that so many people were even allowed in the voting booth with her. I had no idea that this was a thing. Because I'm in Oregon, you know, we've been voting by mail my entire life, so I've never had to worry about this sort of a thing. And we even get an optional sleeve sent to us with our ballots if we want, you know, to make sure there's even more secrecy, so that way somebody can't peek through the envelope and try to figure out who we voted for after we seal it. But this person's main concern, it seems like, was whether or not to tell their friend about their vote for Trump. And she later said she doesn't actually think that they would cut her off, but she's just so ashamed to do just that. And to me, look, I've always kind of leaned on being more open and honest with people. More often than not, people try to be understanding of certain situations. And that person's situation here is very understandable. And as somebody who cut off people I know because they voted for Donald Trump, I'm just saying, me personally, I would make an exception for that person. since I'm sympathetic to that situation. Although if you do it again, off to the gulag you go. But I mean, in all seriousness, I don't think that that person should hate themselves. You know, there's nothing that you can do. Even if you voted for Kamala Harris, Trump still would have won. So I don't think you should be that hard on yourself. But that's basically all the posts that I've got for you. You know, reading these posts and seeing so many people find out after fucking around is really cathartic, because I'm still pissed off about the election. You know, and I really felt so detached from Americans, because it was hard to process just like how many people couldn't care less about the pain and suffering that would be caused by a second Trump term. So it's nice to see that good, well-intentioned people still exist in this country. And, you know, that might not save us from the terror that's about to ensue, but it's something. And, you know, the class solidarity that ensued after a certain event, after a certain healthcare CEO was Minecrafted, you know, the fact that people acknowledge that there's a problem with the system, I think that there's room to try to bring a lot of folks to the light. Many of them will never see the light. A lot of them, you can gently guide them to the correct conclusion if we get them to see that their enemy isn't immigrants and trans people. It's the people at the top, the elites, that are making their lives miserable.
Do yourself a favor and click the join button on YouTube to become a member. Because Mike's doing a great job. Getting to watch his videos before everyone else is tremendous. Many people are saying this. Join today, folks. You won't regret it.